Megan, can you just stop? You've been trying to get pregnant for 5 years without success, and now you hear Louise is expecting, and suddenly you're pregnant too? Louise is suffering from severe morning sickness today, and I need to be there for her. Don't make this harder for me. The line went dead with a harsh click, and blood trickled down my thigh. I fought to ignore the bitter sting in my heart and dialed emergency services with trembling fingers. Then, everything went black as the pain overwhelmed me. When I finally regained consciousness, the doctor delivered the crushing news. Due to the delay in treatment, they had to remove my uterus to save my life. I would never be able to have children again. The room spun around me as I processed the devastating reality. After all the longing and hope, the child I had dreamed of was gone forever. I pushed myself up, feeling dazed, and stumbled to the front desk to register and pay my bills. That was when I spotted Roger and a very pregnant Louise, who looked radiant despite her discomfort. On the day I lost my baby, he was there, accompanying her for her checkup. From a distance, they looked like the perfect couple, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing in my heart. Megan? What are you doing here? Roger's surprise was evident, but concern for my well-being was nowhere to be found. Instead, he turned to me with an air of entitlement. You're just in time. Louise said she's feeling a bit off. Can you grab her some honey water? You've got 10 minutes, so hurry up. My abdomen still throbbed with pain, and I could barely stand. I instinctively shook my head, pale and weak. But my refusal only darkened Roger's expression. Megan, do you really lack any empathy? Louise is a pregnant woman. Can't you just help her out a little? If I'd known you were this selfish, I never would have gotten involved with you in the first place. He berated me, the girlfriend who had stood by him for years, all for Louise's sake. Passers-by glanced at me with pity and judgment, and I felt like I was shrinking under their gaze. Reluctantly, I made my way to the nearest supermarket to buy honey water for Louise. When I returned, hunger gnawed at me after a long day without food, and I couldn't resist the dessert Roger had brought. But in an instant, Roger slapped my hand away. I looked up to find him glaring at me with disdain. Megan, are you that greedy? That's for Louise to help her regain her strength. Why do you insist on competing with her over everything? You can't even let a dessert go. A chill ran through me. After 5 years together, I realized that I didn't even deserve a bite of dessert in his eyes. With Roger's relentless accusations ringing in my ears, I trudged home, feeling more defeated than ever. But when I stepped inside, I was met with an even harsher reality. All the baby clothes and toys I had prepared during my pregnancy were gone. I texted Roger, asking about them, and he replied coldly, I gave all that stuff to Louise. She's about to give birth, and you can't have kids anyway, so it's just taking up space. I had braced myself for this, but the thought of my lost child still brought tears to my eyes. I replied with a simple okay, before exiting the chat, which was now filled with my lonely monologues. Scrolling through Roger's social media, I realized he had hidden all my photos. He had even changed his background to a picture of him and Louise. They looked blissfully happy together. I sat in silence for 3 seconds before unfollowing him. If he cared so much about Louise, then I wouldn't stand in their way any longer. From this moment on, I would let them fly free together, no longer a shadow in their lives. The next day after work, I spotted Roger's car right away. As I reached for the door handle, the window on the passenger side rolled down, revealing Louise's bright smile. Megan, I'm so sorry. Roger insisted on giving me a ride home, she said, her voice cheerful and light. Before I could respond, Roger jumped in. Megan, Louise is pregnant, and I didn't want her to get carsick, so I let her sit up front. Don't be so petty. Just hop in the back. He said it like it was the most natural thing in the world, completely ignoring the fact that I also get carsick easily. With no fight left in me, I slid into the back seat. As we drove, Roger and Louise chatted away, laughing and joking, oblivious to my pale face in the rearview mirror. When we arrived, he gallantly opened the door for Louise and helped her out, ushering her into a restaurant like a gentleman. Once seated, he ordered a range of dishes, all of Louise's favorites, even carefully avoiding any pregnancy no-nos. The waitress couldn't help but comment, Sir, you're so good to your wife. It was only then that Roger seemed to remember I was there, clearing his throat awkwardly. Louise blushed, her eyes sparkling at him, their chemistry palpable, as if they were wrapped in their own little world. After dinner, Roger suggested taking Louise shopping. I thought about slipping away, but he called out, Megan, don't go just yet. Louise has a lot of stuff to carry, you can help her out. His tone was so matter-of-fact, as if I was simply there to serve Louise. I felt my frustration bubbling up and blurted out, you two have fun, I'm not sticking around for this. With that, I ignored Roger's furious expression and headed home, my heart heavy with resentment. The moment I got inside, all the pent-up hurt erupted. I quickly packed my bags, ready to leave Roger behind. Just then, I heard a loud banging on the door. Megan, what was that little stunt you just pulled? Do you have any idea how upset you made Louise? She's been down ever since you left. You know pregnant women shouldn't be stressed, right? Why can't you just give her a break? That same line again. She's pregnant. But Roger's attitude made it seem like Louise was carrying his own child. Years ago, Louise had ditched Roger for a wealthier life, marrying a rich man. After losing her, Roger drowned his sorrows in alcohol until a tragic car accident left him in a coma. The doctors warned that his chances of waking up were slim, and even his parents had given up on him. Yet I stayed by his side, unwavering. I stretched his muscles every day, fearful of atrophy. I knew he had a thing for cleanliness, so I overlooked the stench and bathed him daily. I covered all his medical expenses, too. Everyone told me to let go of this burden, but I cared for Roger for 3 long years. Eventually, he woke up, and at that moment, he vowed to cherish me for the rest of his life. But when Louise divorced and returned, he transformed overnight, surrounding himself with her and catering to her every whim. I'd never forget the words he wrote in his journal. I was in a coma for 3 years, and when I woke up, I found out Louise had married someone else. At that moment, I wished I could just die instead of facing this. Thank goodness she's divorced. Does this mean we might still have a chance? When I discovered that journal, I cried for an entire night. Yet I still couldn't bring myself to leave him. But then came my birthday party, and when Roger learned of Louise's pregnancy, he took her hand in front of everyone and declared, "I'll take care of Louise's baby when it's born." The words cut through me like a knife, and at that moment, I realized the depth of my heartbreak. At that moment, I confronted Roger, demanding to know what exactly I was to him. In a cold, accusatory tone, he retorted, "Megan, the child is innocent. Stop being so selfish." From that day forward, Roger frequently used Louise's pregnancy as an excuse to stay out all night. Eventually, he even had the audacity to ask me to tend to Louise, the expectant mother, with utmost care. I stared blankly into space, my voice barely a whisper. "Roger, when exactly are you going to give me that wedding you promised?" Roger's expression turned serious. He had promised me a grand wedding once, but years had slipped by without any sign of that dream coming true. For 5 long years, we had been nothing more than a couple, not even truly husband and wife. "Megan, it's crunch time for Louise, with the baby on the way. Why are you still fixated on a wedding?" he said, irritation creeping into his voice as he raked his fingers through his hair. "You took care of me back then, but don't think you can hold that over my head. I don't like being pushed around. Let's drop the wedding talk." It stunned to hear him twist my memories into something selfish. I couldn't help but let out a bitter smile. I was about to say more when Roger abruptly swung the door open. I instinctively reached out to stop him, but the door slammed shut, catching my fingers. "Ah," I gasped, pain shooting through me. Roger hurried back, grabbing ointment to apply to my injured finger, but his words were sharp. "How could you be so clumsy, Megan? Didn't you see it coming?" His concern was genuine, but so was the disdain lurking in his eyes. I felt tears prick at my own. Seeing my distress, he sighed. "I was planning to take Louise to the beach tomorrow to clear her head. Why don't you come along?" His tone felt patronizing, as if he was doing me a favor. I should have turned him down, but something compelled me to agree. I thought, "Roger, I'm curious to see just how far you'll go for Louise." The next day at the beach, it became clear I was nothing more than an afterthought. Roger hovered around Louise, doting on her every need. I waded into the water, seeking solace in the waves, but my moment of peace was shattered when I twisted my ankle, sending me tumbling into the surf. "Roger," I called out, but my eyes caught him gently massaging Louise's legs as she reclined, her pregnant belly on full display, clad in nothing but a bikini. A bitter laugh escaped me, and I let the water close over my head, surrendering to the tide. I didn't know how long I was submerged, but when I finally came to, Roger's gaze met mine. "What the hell, Megan? Were you trying to ruin this for us? I finally get to take Louise out, and you have to pull a stunt like this. Do you have any idea how scared you made her? You could have caused her to lose the baby." My heart sank, and my throat burned from dehydration, leaving me barely able to respond. But Roger didn't care. He shot off to find Louise without another glance back. After spending a day in the hospital, I finally dragged myself home, only to find the door locked. The code had been changed, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get in. I texted Roger, but my messages went unanswered. The cold air stunned my skin, and I shivered uncontrollably, feeling my strength slip away. In a moment of desperation, I remembered Louise's birthday and tried that code. To my surprise, the door clicked open, but what I saw inside shattered me.